Wow, the Trump regime just held a very incriminating video conference call. It was led by Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, and it's regarding the catastrophic flash floods in Texas. Kristi Noem tries to blame, essentially, Texas and says, look, we, the Trump regime, believe in federalism now. This is a states' rights issue, and this is what Texas should be dealing with, not the feds. She then tries to blame former President Biden as well and says, well, look how Biden handled the situation in Hawaii. That was much worse than this. Seriously, this is what you're doing right now as the death toll from these catastrophic floods in the Kerr County region is now at 120, and there's still around 160 people who are missing. So as you dig deeper, you start to learn that Kristi Noem is hiding some additional facts. And hat tip to CNN for getting this scoop. This was a CNN exclusive from multiple sources. Kristi Noem did not authorize FEMA's deployment of urban search and rescue teams until Monday. That's more than 72 hours after the flooding began. Multiple sources told CNN 72 hours passed before the federal government allowed urban search and rescue teams to do their work. And one of the things that Kristi Noem put as a barrier to the quick and efficient activation of urban search and rescue teams is any expense over $100,000 by FEMA had to be personally approved and signed off by her. And according to these sources, she did not give the sign off until Monday, 72 hours after the flooding began. The way it's supposed to work is those federal resources should be pre-positioned, or the federal government should federalize the resources and pre-position them before the flood even starts. You don't wait until Monday. And by the way, this is in addition to the fact that there were 6 critical vacancies at the Texas National Weather Service of people who were pushed out by Donald Trump and DOJ, including the main meteorologist coordinator who would have supervised that Kerr County, Kerrville region. So what was Kristi Noem? We could put this timeline together. What was Kristi Noem doing now instead of authorizing the urban search and rescue teams on Monday? She was posting on Instagram photos of herself. Kristi Noem asked her followers on Instagram, instead of authorizing the urban search and rescue teams, what her official governor portrait should be while the girls were missing and being killed in these Texas floods. She wanted to know, should I go with the official governor portrait number 1 of me on this horse? How about the Miss Blondie photo of myself? Or how about I go with Iceman number 3? You all should vote. By the way, what was Donald Trump doing over the weekend? What would a normal president do? You'd be in a situation room. You'd be with all of your top emergency assets. You would go to the main FEMA control center. You would be there as the quarterback, as the leader, making sure that everything was being deployed. That's what Biden did. That's what Obama did. That's what you do when you're in charge. What was Donald Trump doing? We literally have the video of Donald Trump golfing all weekend, licking this stupid ice cream cone, looking stupid, humiliating our country, while Kerr County was underwater. I don't want to hear it. Oh, Ben, it's too soon that you Nah, I'm going to criticize. I'm going to call it out what it is right now. And I am pissed and I am angry right now. And this was the conference call that Kristi Noem held moments ago. It was a video conference with others at FEMA where she's like, I think we did great. I think everything was really good here. And she goes, people forget that the states are older than the Constitution. Federalism means that the states do it. Here, play this clip.
State and local leaders know that their communities, they know what they need better than the government ever could. They know their exact needs and they know how best to prepare. People forget that the states are older than the Constitution and that they created the Constitution, that federalism matters and states' rights need to be respected. We need to focus more on helping, not hindering, and state and local authorities need to be empowered. We don't take charge of them. We give them the opportunity to lead the way.
Well, Governor Newsom's office responded, yes, federalism, unless you're California, where there isn't states' rights. And in California, the Trump regime federalized the National Guard to be used against people who live in Los Angeles, to literally invade our own cities and our own states. But when it comes to Texas, they wouldn't federalize the search and rescue equipment, and they weren't authorizing the urban search and rescue teams because they said that's a state's right. How utterly pathetic is this right now? Let me just show you right here the CNN scoop, and then I want to show you more from that conference call. FEMA's response to Texas floods slowed by Noem's cost controls. As monstrous floodwaters surged across central Texas late last week, officials at FEMA leapt into action. They prepared to deploy critical search and rescue teams and life-saving resources like they have in countless past disasters. But almost instantly, FEMA ran into bureaucratic obstacles. 4 officials inside the agency told CNN. As CNN previously reported, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi, whose department oversees FEMA, recently enacted a sweeping rule aimed at cutting spending. Every contract and grant over $100,000 now requires her personal sign-off before any funds can be released. For FEMA, where disaster response costs routinely soar into the billions as agency contracts with on-the-ground crews, officials say the threshold is essentially pennies, requiring sign-offs for relatively small expenditures. In essence, they say the order has stripped the agency of much of its autonomy at the very moment its help is needed the most. We were operating under a clear set of guidance: lean forward, be prepared, anticipate what the state needs, and be ready to deliver it. A longtime FEMA official told CNN that is not as clear of an intent for us at the moment. For example, as central Texas towns were submerged in rising waters, FEMA officials realized they could not pre-position urban search and rescue crews from a network of teams stationed regionally across the country. Texas did request aerial imagery from FEMA to aid search and rescue operations, a source told CNN, but that was delayed as it awaited Noem's approval for the necessary contract. FEMA staff have also been answering phones at a disaster call center where, according to one agency official, callers have faced longer wait times as the agency awaited Noem's approval for a contract to bring in additional support staff. The chaos has exposed a deeper uncertainty within FEMA about the ability to respond, its mission, and its authority under the Trump regime, just as hurricane and wildfire season has gotten underway. The article goes on to say, for a long time now, FEMA, former FEMA officials, former NOAA officials, everybody. We here at the MeidasTouch Network, we've brought in top emergency management specialists. Everybody, what have we been saying now for 6 months? FEMA, over and over again, because DOGE is destroying the National Oceanic Atmospheric Agency. They're destroying the National Weather Service, and separately, they're destroying FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. It goes on to say, by Tuesday night, the federal response finally expanded to 311 staffers, the data showed. Multiple FEMA officials told CNN that they were taken aback by the agency's relatively limited response in the immediate aftermath of the disaster. The tragedy in Texas has made one thing clear. The buck now stops with Noem. And then the response by the Trump regime is DHS is rooting out waste, fraud, abuse, and is reprioritizing appropriated dollars. Secretary Noem is delivering accountability to the U.S. taxpayer, which Washington bureaucrats have ignored for decades at the expense of the American citizens. That's what that is. This is what accountability looks like, everybody. It's the opposite of accountability, as she's posting Instagram photos and polls of which photo she should use for her official portrait. Should I be Miss Blondie? Miss Blondie, people were dying. That's what was happening.
So while we're talking about all this, I want to make sure we keep talking about the climate as well. Just because the Republicans passed their big disastrous budget bill doesn't mean we stop talking about it. If anything, we need to be talking about it even more. Let's talk about what this Republican budget bill means for the climate, and by the way, your wallet too. While wildfires rage, heat domes expand, and floods destroy lives from Texas to Vermont, Republicans just passed a bill that guts funding for clean energy, hikes energy costs on working families, and showers billionaire donors with tax breaks. Instead of investing in affordable solar, wind, and grid modernization, this bill doubles down on fossil fuel subsidies and gives subsidies to coal. It slashes programs that help low-income families weatherize their homes and pay utility bills, just as extreme heat is driving record demand for electricity. So, who benefits? Big oil, wealthy donors. Who pays? You, me, higher electric bills, higher gas prices, higher costs to breathe clean air and drink safe water. This bill also cuts Medicaid and food assistance, forcing families to choose between medical care, groceries, or keeping the AC on in a heat wave, all to fund luxury tax cuts for the richest people in America. This is a time where we need to be clear. This is not just bad policy, it is climate denial dressed up as a budget. Republicans are raising costs on working Americans at the worst possible time, and the American people know it. So we have to stay united and we have to stay loud. So I want to encourage you all to leave your comments about this on this video and make your voices heard. We're going to stay laser focused on these climate issues, and I want to thank you for joining us, because if we don't stop them, we are not just losing money, we are losing our future. Okay. Back to you, Ben.
Here, Kristi Noem then goes and says just some heinous things about Biden's response. She's like, look, it's good. She goes, if you look at Biden's response in Hawaii, she goes, 1 in 6 women were forced to trade sexual favors for basic supplies. And she tries to blame that on Biden. What the hell did she just do? What the hell is this right here? This is what you mean by accountability? F that. Here, play this clip.
And then after the wildfires in Maui, residents voiced concerns that every FEMA employee that they spoke with had different answers. None of them had conversations that resulted in getting assistance that was helpful or any clarity in their situations. The situation in Lahaina was so bad that 1 in 6 survivors were forced to trade sexual favors, other favors for just basic supplies.
Okay, so you want to transfer this to the states and the locals? Okay, let's talk about the mayor of Kerrville. Here's what he said this morning. Let's play it.
I'm married to a retired first grade teacher. And I learned a little bit about classroom management from her. If you yell questions at us, we're probably going to pick someone else to answer, okay? So if you feel the need to yell your questions, I will feel the need to not answer your question. In first grade, they raised their hands. That might be a good start. Yesterday was a disaster, and I was embarrassed. Our town was embarrassed. Your viewers were embarrassed. And I don't want that to happen again.
Okay, you want to see what the Kerr County Sheriff had to say? Let's see, Kristi Noem, what the Kerr County Sheriff had to say. Let's see his response. Let's play it.
Question for the Sheriff. The Code Red Alert system has come under a lot of scrutiny in recent days, and now there's reports of a timeline on Friday morning where an Ingram Volunteer Fire Department commander asked a Kerr County Sheriff dispatcher for the Code Red to be issued. The dispatcher says, I can't, I have to get a supervisor's approval for that. Almost 6 hours passes until 10 o'clock, 10:04, when the Code Red is issued. How do you account for that lapse of time? What happened and what could have happened in that time?
Okay. As I've said earlier, with every significant event, with every emergency, you know what, we're going to have to, there's going to be an after action. Please, y'all, listen to those words, after action, okay?
Oh, and what are the MAGA Republican Congress members like Roger Williams saying? You shouldn't criticize this. Just write nice letters to us and pray. Give us prayer. Send us nice letters. You should not be saying negative things about the response. Here, play this clip.
This guy's a nut, okay? And let me tell you, these left-wing liberals that want to make this political and blame this storm on Donald Trump, for crying out loud, this is an act of God like we've never seen before. I would say to these people, where's your heart? Where's your soul when it comes to thinking? Not one time did O'Donnell even mention victims or the families or whatever. It's all about Donald Trump, and Donald Trump's doing a great job. So I'm tired of hearing from these people. Like I said, where's their heart? Where's their soul? Why don't they write a nice letter to somebody? Why don't they get on there and say, we're going to pray for these people? Let's hold hands and do that. Yeah, but we don't see that. And that's where they are. That's a good example of where the left is today.
Yeah, that's really all you can do. Again, just pray for these people. I mean, praising FEMA, it's one thing to criticize the president. Praising FEMA, he must forget about 20 years ago and Hurricane Katrina and the failed response from FEMA on that level. And again, not necessarily getting rid of it, but if you just listen to what the president said, they're passing the money to the states because the states and local municipalities know how to spend that money, know their resources, know the lay of the land, especially hill country, better than someone with a federal response that doesn't even live in that area.
What's Donald Trump saying? Donald Trump is saying, congratulations, we did an amazing job, A+. This is how responses are supposed to be done. What? Here, play this clip.
The response has been incredible, and the fact that we got along so well, I don't know, I don't even think that's a political thing, but we got along so well, and it was so unified. I think a lot of lives have been saved. That could have been as bad as it was, and you could have lost double or triple. This thing was just really horrible. Well, congratulations on a great job, and appreciate it. I know you're going down. I'll be going down on Friday.
What is Governor Greg Abbott saying? I've showed you this clip, but you need to see it again. Governor Abbott said, oh, this is like football, and in football, you don't complain. You just go forward. There's no complaining and blaming in football. This is football. We're Texas. We play football. What the hell are you talking about? You play football. What in the world is this? Here, play this clip.
Second part of the question needs to be addressed. You ask, I'm going to use your words, who's to blame? Know this. That's the word choice of losers. Let me explain one thing about Texas. And that is Texas, every square inch of our state cares about football. You could be in Hunt, Texas, Huntsville, Texas, Houston, Texas, any size community, they care about football. High school, Friday night lights, college football, or pro. And know this, every football team makes mistakes. The losing teams are the ones that try to point out who's to blame. The championship teams are the ones that say, don't worry about it, man, we got this. We're going to make sure that we go score again, that we're going to win this game. The way winners talk is not to point fingers. They talk about solutions. What Texas is all about is solutions.
And then Donald Trump was asked a pretty simple question on the tarmac over the weekend, right? By the way, so while he would be on the tarmac, guess what was not approved? The urban search and rescue. That still wasn't approved when I'm showing you the clip right here. When Donald Trump was asked, do you think the federal government needs to hire back any meteorologists who were fired? And Trump goes, no, why would we need to hire back meteorologists? Seriously? That's your response? Here, play this clip.
In light of the floods, do you think that the federal government needs to hire back any of the meteorologists who were fired in the last few months?
I wouldn't know that. I really wouldn't. I would think not. This was the thing that happened in seconds. Nobody expected it. Nobody saw it. Very talented people are there, and they didn't see it. It's, I guess they said once in 100 years, they've never seen anything like this. So I wouldn't, I mean, people are trying to blame the school. They're trying to blame the camp. They're trying to blame, it's just a horrible thing. But no, I wouldn't say that, no.
Okay. And now what is the judge saying? The judge in Kerr County is like the mayor. So Kerrville's a city. They have a mayor. Kerr County is a county. And sometimes you'd have like a board of supervisors for a county. In Kerr County, that their judge is the top county official. Here's what he has to say. Let's play the clip.
Judge, why weren't these camps evacuated yesterday? Texas Department of Emergency Management put out an all call and said there's going to be a problem. We knew there was going to be a problem. Why weren't these camps evacuated?
I can't answer that. I don't know.
Well, you're the judge. I mean, you're the top official here in this county. Why can't you answer that? There are kids missing. These camps were in harm's way. We knew this flood was coming.
We didn't know this flood was coming. Rest assured, no one knew this kind of flood was coming. We have floods all the time. This is the most dangerous river valley in the United States.
I agree.
And we deal with floods on a regular basis. When it rains, we get water. We had no reason to believe that this was going to be anything like what's happened here.
Okay. And what are some other local officials saying? The local officials blame inaccurate forecasts from the National Weather Service. Play this clip.
Forecast that we received on Wednesday from the National Weather Service predicted 3 to 6 inches of rain in the Concho Valley and 4 to 8 inches of rain in the hill country. We worked with our own meteorologists to fine tune that weather statement. And as many of you know, and many of you in broadcast journalism and meteorology, you can go back and look at your own forecast, and the amount of rain that fell in this specific location was never in any of those forecasts.
This rain event sat on top of that and dumped more rain than what was forecasted on both of those forks. When we got the report, it was about 7 feet or so on the South Fork, and within a matter of minutes, it was up to 29 feet, and all of that converged at the Guadalupe, and that's where we saw those very quick rise in flood.
But listen, everybody got the forecast from the National Weather Service, right? You all got it. You're all in media. You got that forecast. It did not predict the amount of rain that we saw.
All right. Well, I'm going to keep calling this out here on the MeidasTouch Network. I don't care if we're taking criticism. Oh, you're calling it out. It's too soon. No. I could do two things at the same time. Absolutely. My thoughts, my prayers, my heart. I mourn for the loss of life in Texas and for all of these natural disasters that have taken hundreds of lives of Americans that Donald Trump hasn't even addressed any of them. But I think the best way, in addition to mourning for people, in addition to sending prayers, in addition to showing that this is a heartbreaking thing for you, is actually to do action. And yes, that means to hold people accountable. Yes, that means to try to figure out what happened and then to also bring to justice people who were wrong in this situation, people who are now covering it up in this situation. So I'll do both of those. Thank you. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.